Hello, today is November the 27th of 2023. I wanted to discuss today a quick point about the power company, the electric company that I've been wanting to make. The power company, as you've heard from me before, maybe in the past, basically forces you to pay them and them alone. Most areas, most municipalities require you to have electrical power in your home. Otherwise, they may deem it uninhabitable or condemned, and you may not live in it. You may not have, for example, kids living in it or elderly. So it is more or less a requirement, an obligation. It is more or less mandatory to have power in most municipalities, most modern and mid-sized to large municipalities like cities, metros, etc. And that is the regulatory sense, the legislative sense of it being mandatory, it being an obligation. But there's also a need for electrical power. We have grown as a modern society everywhere, just about anywhere, even in remote locations, to where you are very much dependent on electrical energy for all sorts of things. And to think that you can live without it is basically ludicrous at this point. To think that you can be part of society, be part of even your family without it is kind of cuckoo. And the reasons for that are many and obvious. And just to list a few, you need power to communicate. You need power to power up your cellular phone or landline phone if you still have one, or PC or tablet or smart device. You need power to power up that communication device called your modem for your internet. You cannot have internet without power, and you cannot have a contact, a line of contact, a lifeline, I would call it, with the outside world, whether it's family, with friends, whether it's emergency services, whether it's work, whether it's any other kind of communication that you need to have. People need to communicate. They are communicative animals. We are social animals, and we need to communicate. For that, you need power. Yes, it could be other types of power, not necessarily from your power company, but again, you still need that power. And most people want it to be constant, reliable. Most people want it to be constantly on, there when you need it, there all the time, 24/7. So for that, you pretty much need to be connected to your power company. So it is a necessity in that sense. The other sense is you need to have lights at night. That is pretty much considered a need nowadays, especially if you're a younger person, older person, a child that needs to do perhaps some homework, a child that perhaps needs to go to school when it's early in the morning. And if you're a working person, you need to be able to function after dark, at least for a few hours after dark. You need to be able to prepare meals, prepare for work, prepare anything around the house, your kids. You need to care for perhaps people with disabilities, elderly, young kids, infants, etc. So you need power for all that. You need to power your home, your appliances, your devices, if you want to be part of modern society. Otherwise, you're going to be isolated and left behind in the dust, and you're going to be pretty much back to how cave people used to live. Candlelight, firelight, and you are soon going to be jobless and perhaps forgotten by everyone else, including close family members. Sadly enough, that is the case. It shouldn't be. Not ideal, not correct, not moral, not right, but unfortunately, that is how it is mostly. And electrical power is necessary also for some people for health, as I mentioned, for disabled folks. Many people depend on machinery, devices. They depend on the heats, air conditioning, depend on the cool air conditioning for the hotter months and the heat for cooler months. You need to have a somewhat livable atmosphere where you live. Many areas of the world are not ideal as far as weather. They don't have the best weather. Even in areas that have mild weather. It may go pretty cold. It may go pretty warm or hot. It may get too humid for some people. It may get uncomfortable at times. So it depends. Even in places that are known for their good weather, it could get quite hot even there. Hawaii, Florida, many places in the Caribbean, Central America, South America, they may get heat waves. They may get this humid, hot weather that's uncomfortable to sleep in, to rest in, to have a restful time in. So even they, sometimes, especially the elderly and the very young, need some sort of conditioning for their air inside of their home. And even though this is not absolutely necessary, but it is more or less something that makes it seem like a necessity, like an obligation, like something you need to have. So having air conditioning, you need power, whether it's for warmth or cold. Having basically power to run your devices, computers, machinery that you may have. You may want to do some work at the home with items. You need to probably use some power tools, cutting machines, some sort of machine to do any kind of shop work. You may work with that type of stuff at your business. Not necessarily your home, but also businesses and industries use electricity. So it is a necessity for them. Sometimes it is an absolute necessity for a manufacturing facility, for example, to have energy and power. So it is pretty much a necessity for many, if not most, instances. And that's what makes having power a requirement. Not necessarily because you're legally obligated in many cases, but you are so dependent on it for modern society that you need to have it. And that is something that the power companies know. It is something that the power companies exploit. It is something that the power companies know that they have power, and power over you, power over the customer, the people that pay. They look at customers as their servants, their unwilling and obligated servants, their little slaves. They know that they got this massive amount of power over you, literal power over you, and they hold the power to pull the plug. They could just say, you're out of there, we're pulling the plug, and they know you're going to come back begging on your knees, walking on your knees with your hands together, begging for them to plug you back in. And they use and abuse this power so they can, number one, keep you paying, and number two, keep raising their rates. Since they know that you have little to no choice, they feel comfortable to do this, and they are mostly backed up and supported by your local utility commission or your government, because they mostly, or at least in many cases, they have utility commissions in their pockets. They have them bought. They take them out to expensive dinners. In many cases, they bribe them. They support their campaigns. They donate directly to your local governments. They hold events. They hold all kinds of things to support your governments. So they have your government in their pockets. They keep doing favors for them, and they expect favors in return. It is just that simple. And they use that power and influence that they have in the government to pass regulations and laws for their benefit, to make it more and more obligatory for you to pay, to make it more and more of a requirement for you to pay, to make themselves more powerful, to make themselves even more influential. So it is a negative feedback loop there that grows with time, and it is just corrupt beyond belief. The structure just keeps getting more corrupt and more rotten by the day. And that is what I am trying to fight against. I am trying to bring back some balance. And for this, we, the people, need to be the first ones to act. We, the people, need to be the first ones to demand. They have us in silos, separated, divided. Thinking only about ourselves, our communities, our society.
Relentlessly teaches us
to be individuals, to be independents, to not really unite too much, unify. The word union It's taboo in many areas here of the country, especially here in the backward South. And all that does is divide and break apart the little bit of power that people may have had. It basically dilutes the people's power, dilutes any kind of influence that the masses may have. So the company keeps their power, even though they are in the absolute minority. They're smaller than the masses of people. Yet they have this immense amount of power over the people. And that is why. Because we really don't have a voice in government once we put our ballots in the ballot box. Once we put our ballots in, it is out of our hands. The power companies, with their deep wallets, deep pockets, they keep
giving your elected representatives
gifts and money and dinners and vacations to the politicians. And the politicians keep accepting them and basically paying them with political favors by passing regulation little by little, year by year, regulation that is extremely hard to reverse and defeat. And these regulations thwarts solar energy, thwarts efforts in wind energy, thwarts efforts in alternative energy, thwart efforts in any kind of protection for consumers, thwarts efforts for protections
against
rate hikes or limits on rate hikes. So every year, every month, they have people on payroll striving, taking steps, making efforts, putting up money, funding efforts to, little by little, steadily increase the power companies' power and influence and increase their grip on you, their hold on you as a customer, giving you less choice, giving you more restrictions as far as what you can do outside of their grid, making all kinds of hurdles and complexities when it comes to installing any kind of alternative means of producing energy like solar, wind, or other, making even efforts to make appliances less efficient. They are highly inefficient. Water heaters have remained as inefficient as perhaps 30, 40 years ago. Same with your appliances. High efficiency appliances are a joke. They're a fraction of what they could be right now. And the same thing goes with your home. They keep increasing the amperage size of your electrical entrance panel. They keep making it from 50 amps to 75 amps to 100 amp. They're up to like 250 amps now or 300 amps now for bigger homes. Standard here in the Americas, which is an absolute outrage. No home should use more than 50 amps at any one time. Yet we have homes with 200, 250, 300 amp power boxes ready to pump in all kinds of power to all the power hungry devices in that huge home, especially that power hog air conditioning unit, air heater, furnace, which is most times electric when it should not be. So that is one reason, my friends, why the power company has so much power over you, over your finances, over your freedom, over your person, over your actions, because they have the politicians in their pocket. They have bribed and influenced the politicians to such an extreme that they allow every damn bad action and decision that the power company makes, because they have them basically by their private parts. They have them grabbed by their private parts because they could basically shut the damn government off if they wanted to. The electrical unions are also malignant. Power company unions are malignant because they are also in cahoots with the corporation itself to get them more pay, to get them more political power, and just to keep them going. Of course, they like their high pay, high benefits, high insurance benefits, their pensions. That is something the power company has, good jobs, but that comes at the expense of the citizenry, us, the people, especially the poor, which are the vast majority of each city, getting pummeled, getting squeezed the life out of them and their money. Thank you very much.